What's up in War Eagle, everybody? You got Ike Jones. Had to get the mic right, but man, we are here inside of Lobtown. Pearlville is buzzing, and Auburn versus Alabama is going down today inside of Neville Arena. Right here, let's talk about it right here in Lobtown.
The Auburn Express.
You are now listening to the War Report Lobtown Podcast. With your boy Ike Jones.
Appreciate y'all for jumping in with me today. Definitely looking forward to this matchup. Auburn taking on the Crimson Tide inside of Neville Arena. Top 25 matchup between these two teams. Top 20 matchup actually between these two teams, and hopefully everybody is ready to experience this one. This is a big game in the season for both teams. It's going to have major implications for the SEC championship regular season this year. Auburn's got a big opportunity to continue their home winning streak. We look at the head-to-head. The ESPN matchup predictor has Auburn winning this game, a 60% chance to win the game today. Points for and points against. Bama is one of the highest scoring teams in the country this season, and they are going to be looking to come out and score a lot in this game. Auburn actually did a really good job against them the first time defensively inside their home building. We'll look at those numbers here in just a minute. But you see Bama's averaging almost 90 points a game this season, giving up almost 75 points a game, which isn't great. But Auburn only averaging 82.5 points per game this season, and only giving up 66 points per game. This game, to me, is going to come down to which team is able to play their style of basketball best. Bama wants to get it into a frantic up-and-down pace, a lot of scoring, just make it chaotic. Auburn wants to have controlled chaos. I think Auburn's going to want to go into the half court a little bit more because I think Auburn is a better half court basketball team. When Bama has to get into their half court offense, they're not as good. They don't run their sets as cleanly. They really want to be up and down, shooting the ball quickly and causing havoc in that way. You see the steals per game for Bama there at almost 8 steals per game in this one. But they don't share the basketball as well, which is it's a lot of one-on-one. When they do share the ball, it's really to a guy to shoot a three, right? Like they're a frantic up and down the floor pace type of team. And how they generate their points is via chaos. They just want it to be all over the place, and they want to get you out of your base defense and into a lot of scrambling so that they can get the open looks from three and get into the transition type of game. When you look at the stat leaders for each team, Janai Broome still dominating the statistical categories for Auburn in points, rebounds, and blocked shots. Assists is still Trey Donaldson. Steals is still KD Johnson. For Bama, you've got Mark Sears. He's their engine. I say this in the first game that he's the guy that makes them go. He was their leading scorer in the last game. He's their leading scorer for most games. He's one of those guys. He and Janai Broome, I think, are at the tops in the league, along with Dalton Connect, as far as SEC Player of the Year honors are going. Mark Sears is who makes this team go, and if he gets going for them, then it's going to be hard to stop them, because then other guys, you have to kind of figure out how to manage him while just keeping their supplemental players from going. You didn't see a big game last time from Estrada from them, but he's another major scorer from them. The surprise guy off of the bench from them, who is typically a starter, but the surprise guy off of the bench for them in that last game was what's the guy's name? Rylan Griffin, who went crazy from three, hit 5 threes in that game. I think Auburn is going to do what they try to do against better three-point shooting teams and have done better against the likes of teams like Ole Miss, and make them take at least tough contested threes and weather the storm of early shots if they're making them early, but really get them off of the three-point line and make them drive into the teeth of the defense. And Janai Broome has been masterful, much better of recent in being able to control the paint, Dylan Cardwell has been good. He hasn't been great in the last couple of games just because of foul trouble, but Dylan Cardwell has been really great inside of Neville Arena at being able to do that. I think Auburn's going to try to do that in this game and really drive Bama into the paint towards the bigs where they have the advantage down low and try to make sure that Bama is getting run off of the three-point line. So looking forward to seeing what they're able to do to keep them regulated from three and make them take tough contested threes and then make them have to make more 2-point baskets. So this is going to be a game where Bama's going to have to show themselves able to do a little bit more inside or taking tough contested threes and making tough shots from the exterior. Of course, when you go look back at the last game, which was a loss for Auburn, that went down 79-75. Again, 79 points get surrendered to a team that scores almost 90 is a good defensive performance. I think that gets overshadowed in what happened in this game, in this previous game, that Auburn losing is the fact that the Auburn defense was able to hold the team to almost 20 points below what their season average was. You think about, all of the threes that they gave up and what they gave up in the first half of that game, and you lose the fact that defensively for that entirety of that game, Auburn actually played Bama really well. The problem is from the scoring standpoint, Auburn well below their average in the 80s of 75, but not, again, this was really more so a game where the first half versus second half, Bama just kind of went crazy from three, and Auburn wasn't able to stem the tide early enough. And in the end, the shooting percentages, right? When you're only shooting 20% from three, that's going to be a bad situation for Auburn. They've got to be up in the 30% range, 34, 35%, mid-30s from three to really have a chance in this game. Bama shot 36% from three, which is about what they do, but you give up 11 of them, right? They're averaging 11 threes per game. You can't let them shoot around what they average as far as number of threes unless you're forcing them to shoot 40 or 50 threes in the game, right? They got to shoot a bunch of them and be making only 30% of those for you to feel comfortable with them hitting 11, right? So, if they're taking a bunch of bad threes or they're having to shoot their way back into the game, that's a different kind of scenario. But Auburn needs to do a better job of shooting the three themselves. If you can repeat the defensive performance that you had in the last game, but get better and more quality shots from your offense, you win this basketball game. Make no mistakes about it. You hold them in the 70s and you do what you need to do offensively, you're going to come out of here with a win. Overall in the game, Bama controlled the glass a little bit too much, too. The offensive rebound specifically, they had 16 offensive boards in that game, particularly late in that game. The effort for Auburn on the offensive glass has been lackluster, and in that losing streak of 2 games in a row to Bama and Mississippi State, that was a point of contention that Bruce Pearl had with his team's effort, and you saw the difference in what they did in the Ole Miss game and the effort that they had on the glass. Now, you're not going to win every battle on the offensive glass, but to beat the teams that you have coming down the stretch, you have to do much better on the glass, especially ending your possessions on the defensive possessions with securing a board. So I think that Auburn is going to come in and they're going to specifically focus on force them and run them off the three-point line, finish the possession with a rebound, right? Funnel it to a shot blocker. Don't overhelp, but make sure that you're running them off the three-point line, contest with a hand up without necessarily flybys, and make sure that you're going and securing the defensive glass to end the possession, limit their second chance opportunities. A lot of those not a lot, but quite a few of the three-pointers that Bama made in that game, and really a lot of the points that they had were off of second chance opportunities, whether it was a block shot and they got to the loose ball, or it was a rebound and they got to that possession and were able to get themselves into an easy shot in the second chance opportunities in that game. So Auburn has to do a better job of securing the defensive glass in this game, and I think that that's going to be a focus for the team in this one, making sure that you're finishing your defensive possessions in this. When you look at Bama home versus away, and I think it's important when you look at this, when you have your games where you're playing a team twice, how do they compare and what they do home versus away? Auburn has a task in front of them. Again, did a great job at home this season. Bama scoring almost 86 points per game, almost 87 points per game, 86.3 points per game. Away, they are averaging 79.6. So Auburn was able to hold them to their road average at home. So we need to see what they're going to do away as far as being able to, if they can hold them below what their road average is, which is 79, which is what they scored at home versus Auburn. Auburn's going to be in a really good shot to come away with this win. As far as their ability to shoot the basketball, they are much worse shooting the three-point shot on the road. Below 30% so far this season shooting the three on the road is Bama this season. And their effective field goal percentage is much less on the road. So Bama has not done well offensively on the road this season already, coming into a fierce opportunity for a road win versus Auburn, who plays much better in their own building, as evidenced by their anybody's ability to actually win in that building so far. The environment's going to be crazy. Expect for Auburn to come out with a very fierce defensive performance in this one. I think that if you keep Bama 75 below, that's really the mark that you want to be in, and in order for you to be in a comfortable place. You look at what Bama's done defensively on the road. They are giving away 80 points per game on the road so far this season, averaging just below 80, giving up just above 80 on the road. As opposed to at home, they're holding teams to 75 or below, or an average of around 75 points, which is around what Auburn scored, right? So they scored around what Bama typically surrenders and held Bama below what they typically typically get at home. So I expect the tables to turn a little bit in this game based upon what the averages are. Bama has not been as good on the road, and Auburn has been much better at home. When you look at what they're giving up as far as field goal percentages, they're surrendering around 32% for teams on the road from three. Again, I just told you earlier, Auburn needs to shoot in the mid-30s from three to really be in a comfortable place for their offense to work the way that it needs to. Bama is on average giving up 32% from three on the road. So I expect a team that typically is surrendering around 29% at home. Auburn shot 20%. The averages should go up for Auburn to in the 30s in this game from the three-point, just because Auburn has done better at home shooting the three-point, like most teams do in college basketball. Again, these road versus home averages aren't something that are just a Bama or Auburn statistic, but just kind of showing you guys the disparity of what happens on the road versus home with a lot of teams. Auburn is in a good place to be able to come out here and get a W tonight. They just need to do what they need to do as far as securing the glass and shooting a little bit better from three. So looking forward to seeing kind of what happens in this game. Again, for me, the guys that for Auburn that really need to step up in this one, that didn't have a particularly good game in the last one. You go and look at the statistics on this. Aiden Holloway got to have a better shooting performance. He didn't hit a single shot from the field in that last game. 0 of 5 from three. You need Aiden Holloway to play a better basketball game tonight. He was getting bothered. Reitzel was really bothering him as far as his ability to kind of get into some of this stuff. You know, Aiden does dribble quite a bit. Really, both of the point guards dribble quite a bit, and that's kind of the way the offense is. They dribble a lot to set up stuff. But Reitzel was really bothering Aiden in the last game as far as his ability to get into the flow of the offense. I expect Aiden to have a bounce-back performance. Not saying he's going to go out here and drop 20 tonight, but I am saying that he's going to get on the scoreboard from the field, and him just doing that puts you in a position where you're going to be better offensively. As far as other guys who didn't really have a good offensive performance in this last one that need to play better in this one, Jalen Williams, 3 of 9 from the field, 0 of 3 from three. He, to me, is the catalyst of this Auburn offense. I've said this before, that Jalen Williams is the most important player on this team. How he goes is really how the offense goes for this team. When Jalen's shooting well, it makes it so much more difficult to defend Auburn because of the way that he gets buckets. He gets buckets in ways that people traditionally don't defend well, right? He's going to be a guy that penetrates the middle of zone. So if Bama wants to go into a zone look to try to force Auburn into shooting threes, Jalen Williams is going to be a guy that's going to hit the shots in the middle of that zone that's going to make it difficult for their team to be able to defend properly, especially if he's making good decisions as far as pass and shoot out of that zone action. And then his ability to step out and shoot the three from non-traditional spots. When he's playing the four, he's playing against guys that aren't used to being able or having to guard out on the wing, or they're switching a shorter man on him, and he can shoot over the top of that. Jalen Williams, crucial to Auburn's ability to play offensively in this game. Looking forward to seeing what kind of stat line he puts up tonight for them. Again, 3 of 9 shooting, not a night that you want as far as a performance from him. If he's only going to take 9 shots, he needs to be hitting 6 or 7 of those. And I've said that before. He needs to be shooting closer to a 60% mark for them to be good on what Jalen does, because the types of shots that he typically takes are makeable shots for him. So if he's going to take typically makeable shots, he needs to make a high percentage of those in order for them to flow well offensively. Looking for him to have a bounce back game offensively. And then the other person I think that is going to be hungry for a win tonight, and you'll see that he played a crucial part in the ability for Auburn to go get the road win versus Ole Miss, and that's KD Johnson. KD Johnson needs to have a better game offensively. He was 3 of 7 in that last game. Not necessarily him shooting a higher percentage, because I'm okay with him having a 3 of 7 shooting performance. It's the kind of shots that KD took. A lot of that twing pull up from 27 from KD in the last game, and you don't need that. And then the turnovers for him in that last game, he had 2, and both of them were really bad turnovers. You need to have a better, more efficient game from KD in this one in order for your offense to function the way that it does. And the last point I'll make as far as Auburn offensively is concerned is Johni Broome took 17 shots in that last game. Johni Broome could have taken 25 shots in that last game, and you would have been much better and more effective against what Bama does. Bama had no answer for Johni Broome in the post. I expect Bama to go after him offensively in this game to try to get him in foul trouble early. Expect for them to try to drive the ball to the paint and try to put Johni Broome in situations where he could potentially pick up early fouls to try to get him out of the game, to put the advantage back in their in their favor as far as their ability to get to the glass. But Johni in this game can absolutely dominate from the opening tip to the end of the game, because they don't really have a defensive answer for him. As physical as Grant Nelson tends to be offensively, he's not very good with handling guys who are good post scorers. At least he hasn't shown himself to be that so far this season. And then Pringle, I just don't think that he has the physicality to be able to stick with Johni. He has the athleticism to stay with him outside, doesn't have the physicality down low. So it's going to be a tough matchup, and I think Auburn needs to play. What I loved that I saw from Auburn in the Ole Miss game was the early offense. This is something that I talked about wanting to see from Auburn, is early offense where they get into a secondary break where you go immediately into a pick and roll. Don't worry about trying to run a play. Just get into the secondary break while they're still trying to figure out where their spots are defensively. Go ahead and get into an early pick and roll scenario with Johni while they're in scramble mode to be able to get your offense in a place where they're trying to figure out how they're going to rotate defensively before they've even really figured out who they're picking up defensively. Or you do a situation where you're getting early offense by getting the ball in the post to Johni and running your offense through him while the defense is still trying to scramble and figure out where they're going to go. And then you just kind of play off of their inability to handle him, especially if he's running the floor the way he's been effectively and getting to his spots early. It's just going to be the first body that they can put on him. And typically that's not going to be the big, because the big is usually trying to go and get an offensive board, right? And so if Johni is running, he's ahead of them. And so you can get the ball to whoever picks him up in transition, either force a mismatch or an early double team, let him pass out of that effectively. I want to see more of that happening from Auburn tonight, like they did, particularly second half versus Ole Miss. And you'll see a better outcome for Auburn in this game if you are a Tiger fan. But listen, that's enough of me talking about this stuff. I definitely want to hear what you all have to say. Before we get into your comments, we definitely want to take a look at the Vegas line on this one. And right now, Vegas has Auburn potentially winning this game as well. So Vegas agrees with what the ESPN matchup predictor says. 5.5 points going to Auburn in this game. And our Vegas lines are coming courtesy of our show sponsor, BetUS. Make sure you hit them up. The link will be in the description of this video for you guys to sign up with BetUS. Get your first deposit matched up to 125%. And you will be able to get on with one of the better sports books out there. We're definitely satisfied with what we've got going on with BetUS. Showing 5.5 to Auburn right now. The over-under in this game is 163. Auburn is expected to shoot a pretty good number in this game. The team over-under for Auburn, so if you're looking at what the Vegas odds are, they're predicting around 85 points for Auburn and around 79 for Bama. In this game. So if you're looking at the Vegas odds, Auburn comes out with that 8.5 points because they're expecting Auburn to win around 85 to 79 in this game, which is, again, around what you see from the odds as far as the statistical values of what Bama's scoring on the road versus what Auburn's scoring at home. So good odds there for Auburn in this game, courtesy of BetUS. Make sure you hit them up. But I want to get over into the comment section and see what you guys are talking about. Appreciate you jumping in here. Green Name Gang, as always, welcome in the chat. Justin Thomas will get you started here saying, must win for my sanity. Absolutely a must-win game for all the Auburn fans out there. We don't want to see our beloved Tigers go down and get a season sweep to those guys. I won't be completely petty today. Not completely. At least I'll reserve some of my petty for later, especially in the post game. I definitely will have plenty of petty if we win this game tonight. Jared Reynolds jumps in and says, "War Damn Eagle, let's go." Big game if we are wanting that regular season SEC championship. Absolutely. This puts you in a tie for number one in the conference and with a couple of really big matchups between Kentucky, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Florida left on your schedule. Teams that are all in contention for that race. I tried to warn people before the SEC began. South Carolina is a good team this year, and they have proven me to be correct. Right. Of course, I sound a little confident when I say stuff that's right. But, hey, listen, man, I'm allowed to say, hey, I said this and it came true. Most people do that, right? Anyway, but, yeah, looking forward to this matchup tonight for sure. P. Pass jumping in saying, Pearlville is amazing. God bless Pablo and Allie. Apparently, Pablo and Allie are out there in the midst of Pearlville. I haven't seen a lot of stuff from it today, but I do know that they are out and active and have been for almost 24 hours, I think over 24 hours now at this point. But the tent city is out there outside of Neville Arena going strong. Let's see. Derek feels as if Bama's going to be warming the buses up early, predicting Auburn to blow them out in this game. Listen, I would not be mad at a game where Auburn is not sweating down the stretch here. Bama's one of those teams, though, that even if you build up a big lead, that you have to kind of keep your foot on their neck because they are such a good three-point shooting team that they can go on a run and close big deficits quickly. So it's not a game where if you get to an early lead, this game is over with at halftime. I do caution people from Auburn getting out to a big lead and celebrating too heavy. Bama can turn the tables and start shooting threes and get themselves back into this game quickly. They're not going to go down without a fight in this game. Auburn needs to put together 2 full halves of basketball in order to come out with a comfortable victory in this one. TS says Aiden needs to find himself tonight. He was rattled on the road. Aiden actually looked good early. He had some good plays as far as some good assists early in that game. But when it got into the middle of that game and Bama started to make their run, and they started to up their pressure on the ball, that's when you started to see a few cracks in his armor there. Aiden needs to be able to deal with that ball pressure a little bit better. And again, I think the early offense that Auburn displays, more so it was happening when Trey was in the game, not the pass ahead stuff, right? Not Aiden trying to do the three-quarter court pass ahead to the big. I'm talking about push tempo up, get the ball into the hands of the big early in the post, or get into a pick and roll action super early. Janai running 3/4 of the court, meaning he comes down to about the free throw line, then gets a return and gives you an early screen and roll or screen and pop action for the point guard, particularly Aiden in this scenario early. Let him get downhill and then be a facilitator or getting to the rim. I think that's what Aiden needs to be able to get in order to be able to get himself comfortable in this game. Relieve the early ball pressure on him by getting him into a pick and roll scenario super early, making them either switch or hedge that, and then he can get the ball out of his hands and we can get into some rotational stuff where there's in scramble drill trying to figure out where they're going to guard. I think that's a key to getting Aiden in control early in this game. If he sees a couple of shots go down early or he sees himself facilitating really well early, expect Aiden to have a big game. Chris S. jumps in and says, no question, we need this and South Carolina to compete for a regular season title. Absolutely, those are the two teams that are currently controlling their own fate. You get a dub versus South Carolina, then you get the tiebreaker there. And I do think that if Auburn can hold serve here, again, I predicted Auburn to lose around 5 or 6 games this season, sitting right now at 4 losses. So you can absorb one more loss, I think, and be fine because Bama, who has only lost 1 in conference, I think, they take the L tonight and then they get 1 more loss in conference. Then you get into a tiebreaker scenario with them, some kind of weird thing. But you do need to get that dub versus South Carolina, I think. David Bush jumps in and says, if we'll play tonight like we did in the second half versus Ole Miss, we win. Got to play inside and out and control the glass, especially on defense. Limit the second and third shots. Absolutely agree with this assessment. Second half, Ole Miss, I think, is the pattern for Auburn to be a good basketball team is what they did in the second half versus Ole Miss. TS says, if Aiden is cold after 5 shots, Bruce needs to give Trey at least 20 minutes. I mean, I guess it depends. I mean, if he's taking 5 shots early, I think the thing for Aiden is really going to be, and I don't think it's about how his early shot production is, because we've seen Aiden have games where he comes out and hits 2 early threes and then doesn't hit any for the remainder of the game. I think it's really more so about the flow of the game and whether or not he's making good decisions on those shots. I'm okay with him missing shots when he's taking good shots. I don't like when he's taking bad shots and forces them and he doesn't get his the rest of his team active in the game. I'm okay with him taking open shots and missing them. But I think that he needs to see something go down in this game in order for him to get his confidence the way that it needs to be. But he's got to keep shooting. Chris S. says, saw the team handing out donuts to fans on socials. Hope they keep handing out donuts to the opponents in Neville too. I like that right there. Definitely want to see them, have a couple of guys go over from the field would be nice, right? You especially one of their guys that's kind of one of their main point contributors, right? When you look at the top 3 scorers for this team, for Bama, that is, you're talking about Sears, Estrada, and Nelson. Find a way to keep those guys over. You did a good job versus Estrada in the last game. I mentioned that earlier. In that last game, Estrada was 0 for 5 from the field, right? So, I mean, maybe he's a guy. I don't expect him to not hit any shots again in this game, but maybe you can limit Grant Nelson or you can limit Sears and allow him, get an exchange of those points. Let's see. Patrick Rice says, if we can win tonight and take down Kentucky and South Carolina, we will be in great shape. Got to win these home games. I agree. Take care of home. And make sure that and maybe go steal one up in Knoxville, and you'll be in a great shot to have the regular season title. But I think you can still lose in Knoxville and still have a great shot at it. But listen, I at this point, I want to be wrong about my 5-loss prediction, and Auburn only loses 4 on the season and just cruises to the rest of the season with only 2 losses in conference. I'd love to see that. Let's see here. Haley jumps in and says, don't need to celebrate until it's over. You don't want to get dragged on the Bird app. Listen, I don't care about the Bird app. I just care about winning. Listen, celebrate early, often. I just need the team to win. I'm just saying don't be too early with the we won celebrations. You can make fun of them for getting drugged early, but the team's got to close out the win for sure. Twitter's not real life, y'all. So y'all have fun out there, and especially if we win, make sure that Bama fans feel the fury. Daniel Moultrie says, bet our lights work tonight, unlike the lights in the airport hangar. I am sure they are triple checking that to make sure that the turnabout is not fair play as far as the lights are concerned tonight inside of Neville. Looking forward to it. Let's see what we have here. Chris S. says, hot take, we go undefeated on the roads and lose 2 at home the rest of the season. I don't like that hot take at all, my guy. I don't like that take at all. I ain't trying to lose none at the house, bro. Protect home, man. Get rid of that home stuff, man. We need to get these dubs at the house. Let's see here. James Barnett says, Ike, has there been a home game where we haven't won by at least double digits? Can this be one of those Auburn's best games tonight? James, there has not been a game this season that Auburn has not won by double digits. Auburn, when winning this season, has been double-digit winners so far. Let me make sure. Yeah. So home, away doesn't matter. When Auburn's won this season, it's been by double digits. So If they get the typical home treatment, then yeah, it's going to be a double-digit win tonight. But I'll take a 1-point win. I don't care as long as at the end of the game the scoreboard shows Auburn with more points than the other team. I'm fine with that, as frustrating as it may be. But yeah, when Auburn's won, it's been by double digits. So looking forward to see for them to go ahead and get this victory and make it happen. Patrick Rice jumps in and says, I think Florida and Georgia on the road are good possibilities. Tennessee on the road will be tough. I agree. I mean, Auburn hasn't played well on the road anyway, but your better chances to get the road dubs are going to be Florida and Georgia, but there's going to be tough games against both of those teams. They play well inside their building. Auburn has struggled on the road. Every team struggles on the road. So it's not going to, by any means, not going to be an easy one. I think that Florida is a tricky one on the road. They play really well inside of their building, and they rebound the ball really effectively. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Auburn has on the road for the remainder of this season. But this game is going to be a game that's going to be filled with a lot of intensity. Hopefully, Auburn is ready for that. I think they will be inside of the home arena, and Auburn's going to come take care of business tonight. But I want to hear score predictions from you guys. What do you feel like tonight's score is going to be inside of Neville Arena? Again, tonight at 6 o'clock on ESPN2, Auburn versus Alabama. The regular season SEC championship title is in the crux based upon this game. So it's going to be an interesting one to see how it happens, and looking for Auburn to come out with this victory. But if you're watching this video right now, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, make sure you share the content with somebody. I am out of here. Again, drop those score predictions right down there in the comment section. I will be back at you guys tonight after the game with a recap, win or lose. Y'all will be hearing from your boy Ike Jones. Until the next time, and as always, War Eagle.